Please don't bother with fluff, because today's story, it's real, it's raw, and it's explosive. The trial of the century has officially begun, and it's dragging decades of darkness into the light. At the center of this storm is none other than Sean P. Diddy Combs, music mogul, entrepreneur, and now embattled defendant in what may become the most scrutinized legal case in hip-hop history. What's unfolding inside that courtroom isn't just a high-profile trial, it's a reckoning. Federal prosecutors, armed with sealed indictments, surveillance footage, and key witness testimonies, are peeling back layers of fame and fortune to reveal a disturbing reality. From alleged sexual misconduct and drug trafficking to witness intimidation and racketeering, the charges leveled against Diddy aren't just serious, they're historic. And the evidence being presented? It's beginning to shake the very foundations of an empire. This trial isn't just about one man, it's about a system. A culture of silence, a legacy built on power, manipulation, and alleged abuse now facing the full weight of the justice system. Cameras are outside, reporters are swarming, and the world is watching as the courtroom battles ignite. And if day one is any indication of what's to come, then buckle up, because what lies ahead is nothing short of seismic. Before opening arguments even began, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The air was thick with anticipation, as every eye in the room was trained on the jury selection process. Judge Arun Subramanian presided over the proceedings, swearing in 12 jurors and 6 alternates, each of them carefully vetted after hours of intense questioning about their potential exposure to the case. The courtroom? Packed to the brim with reporters, legal experts, and spectators, all eager to witness the trial of a lifetime. The stakes? Nuclear. The trial promised to unravel decades of secrets, and everyone knew this case would be one for the history books. The judge, eager to maintain some semblance of order in the midst of the chaos, promised the jurors breakfast, lunch, and full anonymity. But what he couldn't promise was peace of mind. From the very beginning, the trial was destined to be a battleground. Diddy's lead attorney, Mark Nifolo, wasted no time raising concerns, accusing the prosecution of striking 7 black jurors from the pool. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs as the accusation hung in the air. Nifolo's move was a calculated one, intended to cast doubt on the prosecution's motives. But the government was quick to fire back, with prosecutor Marin Comey denying any bias, insisting that the decision was based on the jurors' problematic histories. One had hostile run-ins with the police, another admitted that they couldn't avoid media coverage. The back and forth between the defense and prosecution escalated the drama, with both sides digging in their heels. As the jury continued to take shape, it became clear that this wouldn't be an ordinary trial. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of tension and heated arguments, a jury was locked in. 8 men and 4 women, with alternates split evenly between genders. The jurors came from various walks of life, with ages ranging from their 30s to their 70s. They hailed from all corners of New York City, Manhattan, the Bronx, and Westchester, each bringing their own unique perspectives and experiences to the table. Among them were a massage therapist, an investment analyst, a scientist, and even a deli clerk. Yet, despite the diversity of the jury, there was one thing that united them. They had all been exposed to the now infamous video of Diddy assaulting Cassie, which had gone viral months prior. The courtroom fell silent as the realization set in. This video, which had shaken the public to its core, would be central to the trial. It was no longer just about celebrity drama. It was about real, damaging allegations of abuse and manipulation. With such powerful evidence looming over the proceedings, everyone in the room knew that this case would be nothing short of explosive. As the jury filed out to deliberate on the case that would likely shape the future of one of the most powerful figures in entertainment, there was an undeniable sense of gravity in the air. The world was watching, and the outcome of this trial could potentially change everything, from the way we view Diddy's empire to the larger issues of power, abuse, and justice in the celebrity world. The jury, now sworn in, would hold the keys to unraveling a dark side of fame that few had ever seen, and even fewer dared to confront. Then, the courtroom was rocked by a bombshell that no one saw coming. Prosecutor Emily Johnson stood up and delivered an opening statement that would set the tone for the entire trial. "There's a darker side to Sean Combs," she began, her words hanging in the air like a chilling warning. "A side the public never saw. While Diddy had long been revered as a mogul, a hitmaker, and a brand, someone who built an empire on talent and charisma, the prosecution aimed to expose a very different man behind the glossy public persona. Johnson promised to pull back the curtain on the criminal world Diddy allegedly controlled, a world that was as violent as it was manipulative. To the outside world, Sean Combs was untouchable, one of the wealthiest and most powerful figures in the entertainment industry. But according to the prosecution, what the public didn't know was that behind closed doors, he was a man who wielded his power in terrifying ways. Prosecutor Johnson claimed that Diddy ran a criminal empire that spanned far beyond the world of music. This empire, she argued, included kidnapping, arson, drug trafficking, and sexual coercion. Nothing was off limits in his pursuit of control over others. The message was clear. Diddy didn't just rule his business, he allegedly controlled every aspect of the lives of those around him, through fear, intimidation, and violence. At the heart of this alleged empire were the women Diddy reportedly manipulated and abused. Prosecutor Johnson painted a disturbing picture of a man who didn't just exert control over his employees and associates, but also over the women in his life. She claimed that these women were subjected to sexual coercion, physical abuse, and threats meant to keep them in line. The most prominent of these women, Cassie Ventura, a former lover and artist on his label, was allegedly at the center of Diddy's reign of terror. Johnson argued that Diddy's control over Cassie wasn't just professional, it was deeply personal, crossing the line into manipulation and abuse. The prosecution's opening statement promised to expose a dark world where the lines between business and personal life blurred dangerously. According to Johnson, Diddy used his power to exploit those who trusted him, turning them into pawns in his quest for dominance. From the behind-the-scenes operations of his music empire to the toxic relationships he allegedly nurtured, the statement made one thing clear. Diddy's empire of control wasn't confined to the boardroom or the stage. It reached into every corner of his life and the lives of those closest to him. As the courtroom fell into stunned silence, Johnson's words echoed a chilling reminder. Behind every success, there could be a hidden cost. Diddy's empire of music and luxury was allegedly built on much darker foundations, and the prosecution was prepared to show the jury just how deep those foundations went. This wasn't just about a celebrity scandal. It was about a pattern of abuse and control that spanned years. The stakes were high, and the truth, as the prosecution promised, was about to come to light in a way no one could ignore. The prosecution's voice didn't tremble, but the weight of what came next was undeniable. All eyes were on Cassie Ventura, not just as a former pop star, not just as Sean Diddy Combs' longtime girlfriend, but as the first woman to publicly crack the image of one of hip-hop's most powerful men. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture. A teenage girl, just 19 years old, swept into the world of a music mogul who would eventually control every aspect of her life, her career, her choices, even her body. And when she tried to step outside of that control, the consequences were brutal. According to the opening statement, it all began with jealousy. Diddy allegedly discovered Cassie was seeing another man, but instead of walking away, prosecutors claim he orchestrated a campaign of retaliation so twisted it shocked the courtroom. He reportedly forced her to sleep with male escorts while he watched, recording every moment, not out of desire but out of dominance. The state alleged it wasn't just about sex, it was about power. Power over Cassie. Power over anyone who dared defy him. The violence didn't stop there. In one harrowing incident, Diddy is accused of tracking Cassie down after she tried to get away. When he found her, prosecutors say he physically assaulted her, kicking her in the back, dragging her across the floor, and leaving her battered and terrified. The jury heard chilling words that Cassie allegedly received during this time. "I can release those videos." Words meant to silence her, to trap her. She was a rising artist with a hit single and a devoted fan base, but none of it mattered, because in private, she lived in fear. And that fear was allegedly weaponized against her at every turn. Prosecutors argued that Cassie's attempts to leave were met with more than just resistance. Diddy's inner circle, they claim, acted as his enforcers, keeping tabs on her movements, ensuring her loyalty, and pressuring her into compliance. The courtroom was told she was surveilled, followed, and emotionally broken down over years. Every time she tried to escape, someone within Combs's orbit allegedly reeled her back in. Not through legal contracts, but through intimidation, psychological abuse, and control tactics that prosecutors say were orchestrated at the very top. And now, more than a decade later, that story has finally made it to federal court. Prosecutors argue that Cassie's experience wasn't an isolated incident, it was part of a broader pattern, a system designed to protect one man's empire, no matter the cost. Her testimony, and the allegations tied to it, are expected to be among the most explosive in the entire trial, because for the first time the public isn't just seeing Sean Combs the entertainer, they're being asked to confront Sean Combs the accused predator. And if what's being alleged holds true, the fallout will shake the music industry to its core. In one of the most jarring moments of the opening statements, prosecutor Emily Johnson stripped away the celebrity gloss to expose what she described as a calculated system of exploitation. "This is not about celebrity sexual preferences," she said firmly. "This is about coercion, about drugging, violence, and fear." Johnson's words set the tone for what would be some of the most disturbing allegations in the trial, shining a spotlight on what insiders allegedly called freak-offs, a term prosecutors say Diddy used to describe a series of orchestrated high-risk sex parties that spanned years. According to the prosecution, these weren't consensual adult gatherings. They were allegedly planned with military precision, down to the lighting, camera placement, drug combinations, and cash disbursements. Hotels were prepped in advance. Flights were arranged for escorts and guests. Luxury suites were converted into stages of control, with Diddy allegedly directing what would unfold. Prosecutors claimed these freak-offs were not about pleasure, but about dominance, about humiliating and controlling women who often had little or no real choice in the matter. Inside these hotel rooms, Johnson alleged, women were stripped of autonomy. They were told what to wear, what drugs to ingest, and how to perform sexually, even when they protested. Some, the prosecution claims, were visibly intoxicated or under the influence of substances they didn't knowingly consent to. Others allegedly became ill during the events, but walking away wasn't an option. Diddy's wealth, status, and intimidation, Johnson argued, made sure of that. And when women objected or attempted to leave, they were met with threats, veiled and direct. Prosecutors further alleged that the people around Diddy, his security staff, assistants, and even business associates, either enabled or looked the other way. The courtroom heard that certain employees were tasked with booking escorts, securing narcotics, or managing party logistics. Some allegedly played active roles in controlling the women involved. And all of it, prosecutors say, served to protect and elevate one man, Sean Combs. It wasn't just about sex. It was about absolute control, about silencing, isolating, and objectifying women while insulating the man behind it all. This disturbing web of abuse is now under federal scrutiny, with Johnson promising that evidence, from texts and emails to witness testimony, would peel back the layers of secrecy surrounding these events. The term freak-off may have sounded like celebrity gossip years ago, but today, in a federal courtroom, it's being redefined as something far more sinister. Prosecutors argue that these were not isolated incidents or exaggerated tales. They were allegedly a pattern of predation that stretched across years, and now they're central to the case that could determine Diddy's fate. Then came the testimony that silenced the entire courtroom, Jane Doe. While her identity was protected for legal reasons, court watchers and media outlets widely speculated she may be Daphne Joy, a model and actress known publicly as the mother of 50 Cent's child, making her alleged involvement even more explosive, given Diddy's long-standing rivalry with the rapper. What started as what she believed would be a romantic relationship with Sean Combs, she said, quickly unraveled into something dark and degrading. Jane Doe described how Diddy allegedly groomed her, slowly introducing her to his world of freak-offs. At first, she said she didn't understand what was happening, until he took her to a hotel suite where everything was already arranged. Drugs, cash, camera equipment. She testified that Diddy gave her instructions on what to do, what to wear, and how to behave. She begged him to use protection, but he refused. She claimed she became violently ill after being drugged, but Diddy didn't stop. Instead, she said, he told her to do it again. Her attempts to regain some autonomy were met with cruelty. Jane Doe testified that once, in an effort to flip the power dynamic, she arranged for her own escorts, only to find herself further humiliated. She said Diddy's control was absolute, and when she pushed back, the violence escalated. One night after she refused him, she alleged that Diddy broke into her home. He kicked open the doors, he choked her, he beat her. These weren't just accusations of emotional abuse. These were detailed claims of physical assault, laid bare in federal court. The testimony grew even more harrowing. Jane Doe said that after the beating, Diddy demanded she cover up her bruises with makeup. He handed her an ecstasy pill, she claimed, and told her to take it before heading out to perform at one of his events. The prosecution emphasized how these weren't isolated incidents, but part of an alleged system of domination and psychological manipulation. Every step of the way, Jane Doe says she was dehumanized, degraded, and silenced by someone who wielded fame like a weapon. For the jury, this wasn't just a story about a powerful man abusing his influence. It was a first-hand account of how that power allegedly destroyed lives behind closed doors. Prosecutors underscored that Jane Doe's testimony aligned with other witness statements and pieces of physical evidence. While Diddy has not publicly responded to this testimony, and his legal team maintains his innocence, this moment in the trial was a seismic shift, laying bare the real-life horror allegedly hiding behind luxury, music, and celebrity mystique. As the courtroom drama intensified, the prosecution introduced a third woman whose testimony would shock everyone in the room. Mia, a former employee of Diddy, stepped forward with a harrowing story of her own. According to her testimony, Diddy's abuse was not limited to the women he sought for his freak-offs, or the ones involved in his criminal empire. Mia's story painted a chilling picture of coercion, manipulation, and sexual assault, making it clear that for her, the mogul's power was not just a matter of influence, but control over every aspect of her life. Mia recounted how Diddy allegedly snuck into her bed one night after repeatedly pressuring her. She said that he forced himself on her, and in a moment of horror that would change her life forever, he raped her. The graphic nature of her testimony left the courtroom silent, with many wondering how far the abuse had really gone. Mia's account was not just an isolated incident, but another grim chapter in a pattern of alleged violence and manipulation that the prosecution was now systematically unfolding. For Mia, the abuse didn't end after that night. According to her testimony, Diddy's behavior grew more brazen as time went on. She was allegedly subjected to constant harassment, psychological torment, and intimidation. The prosecution emphasized that Mia wasn't just a random victim. She was a woman who had trusted Diddy, who had worked for him, and who had been manipulated by his vast power. Her testimony, however, wasn't merely about recounting pain. It was about exposing the system of control Diddy allegedly ran, where women's bodies became pawns in his twisted game of dominance. Mia's account became even more significant when it was revealed that she had tried to escape the abuse. Despite her attempts to distance herself, she claimed that Diddy's reach was relentless. He allegedly used his influence over her career and her financial security to trap her in an environment where she had nowhere to turn. As her story unfolded in the courtroom, the room was gripped with tension, as Mia's pain seemed to echo the experiences of the other women who had bravely come forward. The significance of Mia's testimony cannot be understated. Prosecutors have called her story the nail in the coffin of Diddy's defense. If her allegations are proven true, they add yet another layer of depth to the complex web of manipulation, assault, and control that the mogul is accused of weaving over the years. Mia's testimony has become a pivotal moment in this trial, one that could ultimately decide the fate of the man once known as the unstoppable mogul, now facing accusations that could shatter his empire forever. The courtroom was on edge as the prosecution dropped a bombshell that would send shockwaves through the trial. The focus turned to the 2016 hotel surveillance video, an explosive piece of evidence that has already been seen by millions around the world. In it, Diddy is caught on camera assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. The footage is undeniably damning, showing a violent encounter between the two that, until now, had been shrouded in secrecy. But the story doesn't end there. What came after the video was captured would reveal just how far Diddy and his inner circle allegedly went to protect his image. According to the prosecution, Diddy's chief of staff was directly involved in orchestrating a cover-up that would ensure the footage never saw the light of day. After the assault, Diddy allegedly paid a hotel security guard a staggering $100,000 in cash, handed over in a plain brown paper bag, to destroy the damning evidence. This alleged payoff was part of a broader effort to erase any trace of the assault, a calculated move designed to protect Diddy's carefully crafted public image and prevent a scandal that could destroy his career. The idea of such a large sum being exchanged for silence speaks volumes about the lengths the mogul was willing to go to in order to bury the truth. Despite the efforts to suppress the video, CNN somehow obtained a copy, and the footage has since become a critical piece of evidence in the case. Now, the jury will see it for themselves, a moment that will undoubtedly send ripples through the courtroom and further illuminate the dark side of the celebrity mogul's life. For the jurors, this video is not just a recording of an assault, it's a visual testament to the control and manipulation Diddy allegedly exerted over Cassie, his former lover and victim. As they watch the footage, they will have to confront the undeniable reality of what happened in that hotel room and the lengths Diddy allegedly went to in order to cover it up. For the public, the video is more than just a piece of evidence. It's a raw, unfiltered glimpse into the abusive relationship that Diddy had with Cassie. The footage challenges the narrative of the charming mogul that the world has long known. Instead, it presents a much darker and more troubling picture of the man behind the brand. The visual shock value of the video, combined with the chilling details of the alleged cover-up, forces us to reckon with the reality that many victims of abuse go unheard, and that powerful figures often use their influence to silence those who try to expose the truth. As the jury prepares to see the video in court, the stakes could not be higher. This moment could prove to be a turning point in the case, as the brutal reality of Diddy's actions becomes undeniable. The $100,000 cover-up is more than just an attempt to protect a reputation. It's an illustration of the power imbalance that allowed Diddy to allegedly exploit, control, and manipulate those around him. As the trial unfolds, the question remains: will the truth be enough to bring justice to the women who've come forward? Or will the power of one of the music industry's most influential moguls continue to overshadow the lives of those he allegedly hurt? As the trial entered its closing stages, prosecutor Emily Johnson stood before the jury, ready to sum up the case that had already shocked the courtroom and captivated the public. With an unwavering voice, she laid out the final pieces of the puzzle, pieces that would tie Diddy to the disturbing allegations of abuse, coercion, and manipulation. The jury would be shown the chilling evidence: text messages in which Diddy allegedly directed his employees to pay for prostitutes, videos documenting the depraved freak-offs where Diddy is seen orchestrating every vile detail, and footage capturing the aftermath of violence, the bruises, the tears, the brokenness left in his wake. This was no longer a case built on speculation. This was a case founded on concrete, undeniable proof. Among the most shocking pieces of evidence was a series of surveillance tapes that not only captured Diddy's interactions with his victims, but also served as an unforgiving timeline of his alleged abuse. Each frame seemed to show a man who believed himself to be above the law, someone willing to use his wealth, power, and influence to bend others to his will. These tapes weren't just about documenting actions. They were about exposing the depths of Diddy's alleged control over his victims, the menacing way he allegedly used fear and manipulation to keep them silent. The prosecution made it clear: this was not just about a celebrity's preferences or lifestyle. This was about systematic, calculated abuse. Johnson didn't shy away from highlighting the emotional toll the case had taken on the victims, especially Cassie, Jane Doe, and Mia. The jury had heard the testimony of these women, brave enough to stand up against a figure as powerful as Diddy. Their stories were painful, raw, and undeniably impactful. The evidence presented was not just a collection of facts and recordings. It was the painful reality of abuse, control, and exploitation at the hands of a man who thought he could get away with it all. As Johnson painted the picture of what had truly transpired, the jury was left to wrestle with a fundamental question. Was Diddy the mogul the public knew, or was he something far darker? The final moments of the prosecution's argument were as gripping as the case itself. With a calm yet forceful tone, Johnson urged the jury to carefully consider the evidence they had seen. She emphasized the importance of following the law and using their common sense. She reminded them that they weren't just making a decision based on celebrity status or media coverage. They were making a decision based on the hard facts in front of them. "Pay attention to the evidence," she said. "Follow the law and use your common sense." For the jury, it would be impossible to ignore the overwhelming nature of the evidence, a mountain of proof that painted a damning portrait of a man who, for years, allegedly used his influence and power to get away with violence, exploitation, and manipulation. With her final words hanging in the air, the jury was left to consider one last question. Could they deny the reality of what had been shown to them? The case against Diddy had been built on a foundation of irrefutable evidence. Now, it was up to them to decide whether that evidence was enough to hold him accountable. As the courtroom fell silent, the weight of the trial seemed to hang over everyone in the room. It was no longer just about Diddy's career or public image. It was about the truth, the victims, and whether justice would be served. As the prosecution's case seemed to be gaining traction, the defense team rose to mount their counterattack. Leading the charge was Tiny Geragos, daughter of the renowned attorney Mark Geragos. Tiny, known for her no-nonsense approach, was joined by a powerhouse team: Mark Ignall, Alexandra Shapiro, and the high-profile attorney Brian Steele, famous for his work defending rapper Young Thug. To round out the defense, Xavier Donaldelson, a seasoned trial lawyer from New York, brought his wealth of courtroom experience into the fold. Together, this legal dream team was prepared to go to war, and they weren't wasting any time. Despite their formidable lineup, the defense team had already made several attempts to delay the trial, citing the need to review new evidence that could potentially change the course of the case. These requests were met with resistance. Judge Arun Subramanian, who had presided over the trial from the beginning, was quick to dismiss their motions. "You've got more than enough legal muscle," he reportedly told the defense. "Let's go." With no more room for stalling, the defense was finally forced to present their case, and Tiny Geragos stepped forward with a statement that would set the tone for the rest of their argument. In a calm yet assertive tone, Tiny Geragos began her opening statement by framing the case in a completely different light. "This case," she told the jury, "is about love, jealousy, and money." It was a stark departure from the prosecution's allegations of abuse, control, and criminal activity. Geragos suggested that the government's portrayal of Diddy as a master manipulator involved in racketeering was not only inaccurate, but deeply misguided. She painted a picture of a man caught in a whirlwind of personal relationships, professional jealousies, and financial disputes, one that led to misunderstandings and accusations, but not the sinister crimes the prosecution was alleging. Geragos was quick to argue that the case against Diddy was based on sensationalism, pointing to the celebrity status of the accused as the root of the case's drama. "The government wants you to believe this is about racketeering, but it's not," she claimed. According to the defense, the prosecution's case was filled with exaggerations and half-truths, presented to the jury to evoke an emotional response rather than focus on facts. The defense was adamant. What the jury was seeing was not the reality of Diddy's life, but a carefully crafted narrative designed to smear his reputation and make him out to be a villain. The defense team also set out to discredit the key witnesses who had come forward with damning testimonies, including Cassie and the other victims. They argued that these women had personal motives for testifying against Diddy, including financial gain and resentment from their past relationships. They suggested that the alleged incidents were not as sinister as the prosecution claimed, and that the accusers were using their stories to take advantage of Diddy's wealth and fame. It was a bold attempt to flip the narrative and cast doubt on the credibility of the prosecution's star witnesses. But with each passing moment, it was clear the defense was not just fighting a legal battle, they were fighting for Diddy's future. As the defense prepared to present their evidence, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The fate of Sean P. Diddy Combs now lay in the hands of the jury, who would have to sift through the conflicting narratives presented by both sides. On one hand, the prosecution had laid out an explosive case filled with evidence and testimony that painted Diddy as a man who abused his power and wealth for years. On the other, the defense was doing everything in its power to reshape the story, focusing on personal motivations, misunderstandings, and the complexities of relationships. The stage was set for a fierce legal battle, and with emotions running high, the final outcome remained uncertain. So what's next in this explosive trial? Prepare for a series of jaw-dropping testimonies, each one more shocking than the last. The prosecution is armed with damning evidence, texts, videos, and witness accounts that will paint a picture of a man who manipulated and controlled those around him for years. But the defense isn't backing down either. They've got their own arsenal of tactics, ready to turn every narrative upside down. Expect them to go after the credibility of key witnesses, challenging every claim with fierce cross-examinations and legal strategy. This battle isn't over yet. With the stakes higher than ever, the courtroom will soon be a battlefield where every word matters. As the trial unfolds, the explosive testimonies will reveal hidden truths that could change everything we thought we knew about Sean P. Diddy Combs. From his alleged abuse of power to the accusations of sexual exploitation, nothing is off limits. And with the defense trying to cast doubt on the prosecution's case, the tension will only continue to rise. Secrets will be exposed, and the world will be watching, waiting to see who comes out on top. In the end, it all comes down to one question: who will win this high-stakes battle of love, lies, and power? As the trial progresses, one thing is clear: the outcome will reverberate far beyond the courtroom. With the eyes of the world on Diddy, the jury, and everyone involved, the drama is only just beginning. Stay tuned, because what happens next could shake the very foundations of fame, fortune, and justice.